Hey, blessings, fam. It's your brother Rod Tahuti, and wanted to come at you today and kind of, you know, let the people know that never let anyone dictate your spiritual path or your process of awakening. A big problem that I see in society today is that we allow others to dictate, or translate to us what it means to be spiritual or to be on the spiritual path. And that's one of the most biggest sins that anyone can ever commit. Any type of spiritual journey or soul searching is an individual process. Most of us, growing up, in families who are quite religious, they often pass down their beliefs or their faith-based systems onto us. And as children, we don't really question these things. What we do is we just follow. And, as we go through the process of getting older, and growing into an adult, we ultimately adopt those beliefs. And what has happened was that, we never really did question or really try to analyze what we were told to believe, especially in the black community where, the most predominant religions are Christianity and then Islam. Most of these things are passed on to us and we don't question it. And what's, awkward about that is that, it's sort of contradictory because in life, especially as children growing up in school and going through college, we're told that we should never take at first hand anything someone says or just believe it without credible evidence, references or sources to back that information up. Especially me going through college for quite some time, I had to write multiple papers, and even though, my professors considered me, quite intelligent and I could, English was my skill, writing was my skill, and even though I could write a lot of things off the top of my head, that wasn't going to suffice in the professional arena, or amongst, those in that specific, school or whatsoever, for me to just write something and say, hey, take this at face value. This is what it is. They would always ask me, is this your opinion or is this something you can back up? And, we should take that in all aspects in life, being able to prove and back up what we're saying. Now, in a spiritual sense, it's not always easy, to kind of clarify or prove what you're speaking of, but in regards to the religions or the belief systems that we choose to indulge in, I just feel we have to do adequate research, credible research, support the facts, support the stories we're being told, have facts or some type of basis or background for what we're being told to believe, especially in the incidents of Christianity. What most individuals get confused is that the Bible, which is the core, aspect of the religion from which to derive teachings or any type of spiritual meaning, most individuals take that as the only document they need to get into, in order to, be able to improve on their spiritual life or aspect. And that's definitely, not adequate, unfortunately. You can't take one book and attempt to prove everything that's going on in that book as true because the book states it. When you indulge into adequate research, you have to have multiple sources. You have to have so many, so much verifiable evidence, that ultimately no one can, discredit what you're talking about or what you're trying to prove to them. And specifically, when you look at the Bible, most of the stories in the Bible, such as the Exodus or such as the story of Jesus Christ, and things like that, the only things that speak of these events are the Bible. That's not adequate in a professional arena. And I keep saying professional, but not even in a legitimate individual process of soul searching or looking for answers. You can't put all your belief, and foundation in one book. there has to be some type of evidence to support what's going on in that book. I mean, because you mean to tell me that, you know, individuals wrote the stories happening, but we don't have any other verifiable documents or sources, you know, that's actually verifying those stories. And if there are other stories, most of these have been, you know, determined to be, you know, falsified, especially during the medieval times, or, you know, during the prominent Christian era, such as the Crusades, you know, when people were trying to, you know, oppress certain populations and make them convert to Christianity. You know, so there was a whole, you know, era of, you know, falsified objects and things to say that, hey, this proves that these stories did happen or this individual did exist. You know, especially with your Exodus story. I've done quite, you know, in-depth research regarding that event as well as the Jesus Christ story. And the more I read, the more I see that these events could not have historically happened at all. Reason being because, you know, there should be some type of archaeological evidence to support these things happening, you know, especially in the event of the Exodus, because you're saying that these hundreds of thousands of slaves existed in Egypt at a certain period, and all of a sudden they got up and moved. There should be some type of evidence, you know, in or around, you know, the Sinai desert, you know, or that area, to show that there was a mass migration. You know, people just don't get up and move if there's no evidence of it. You know, that's what archaeology does. They're able to tell us the story of various civilizations and populations based on their movements, you know, who they, you know, coincided with, you know, or the type of practices or behaviors they got into, you know, based on the archaeology or the evidence that's, you know, brought up. So in the event of the Exodus, we see none of this. We don't even have a grave for any of these individuals. So basically, I'm not going to go too much in depth with that. I can go on and on. Basically, my point is to always do adequate research and don't take things, you know, as given at first. You know, I work a regular job, but even on the job, I'm continuously developing my spiritual core and aspect, and trying to educate others, you know, that, you know, the religion is not working for us anymore, especially black people. It's not working for us anymore. And I've read numerous books, you know, on these topics. You know, my knowledge base is vast. I'm ready to actually go against anyone, you know, that's willing to say that, you know, you're wrong, or there is a factual basis, you know, to these stories. And like I said, even with Islam, because as you can, when you start getting into depth with that, you can see that Christianity and Islam is similar in nature. You know, so one book I'm actually reading now, by D.M. Murdoch, is Does Moses Exist? The Myth of the Israelite Lawgiver. You know, she goes into depth about the Exodus story. I actually read a prior book written by her, you know, about the myth of Jesus Christ. I have various other, you know, books, you know, in my small library at home, you know, just to continuously be on that level of trying to discard any type of, you know, information that's not credible. And trust me, I've been in Christianity since the day I was born up until my early 20s. So it took me a long time to get out of that cycle. But something awakened me and told me to do the research. And now, you know, I'm willing to educate others that it's not beneficial anymore to subject yourself to a religion and let someone tell you, you know, how to, you know, gain any type of spiritual enlightenment or, you know, a spiritual guidance. Everyone's path is individual in nature. So I don't want to hold you up for too long. Just wanted to kind of get that off of my mind. Peace.